Hello and welcome to another episode of the Digi-Tools and Accrual World podcast, the place to go for all of your accounting insights and news in the UK and beyond. It's a little bit different this episode. I've not got the wonderful Indy and John. In fact, we've upgraded them, and I'm joined by the beautiful Eriona, the Intuit experts. Eriona, how are you?
I'm good. Looking forward to this. I actually really enjoyed the last episode, so looking forward to this one as well.
And we've got the soon-to-be world-famous Kevin Fitzgerald from Employment Hero, who is getting out and about this year. Kevin, how are you?
Doing very well, and certainly nowhere near world-famous. Thank you very much.
Well, who knows after this episode, Kevin? But for anyone that is unaware of Kevin, he's a UK MD and potentially, I never get your title right, but I'm going with UK MD of Employment Hero, the embedded and integrated HR and payroll platform that is probably used by a significant amount of firms and software around the UK and beyond. But we're going to dive into a lot of tech as we always do. But before that, I'm just going to throw it out to you guys and ask, how's your kind of week been? Or have you been to any events recently and you think, oh yeah, that was really good and people should go to? Eriona?
Yeah, no, it's been a busy week. A lot of events recently, but one that of course I would be at was the Intuit Get Connected event. So we had a lot of news and features kind of shown, a lot of talk about AI, I think across the industry, not just Intuit, but Intuit's massive on that right now. So I think we've got plenty to talk about with that.
Yeah, I look forward to hearing about that. Hopefully lots of stuff in you can bring to App News. And Kevin, anything that you've been, I guess, doing recently that you think is going to be of interest and hopefully we're going to hear about?
Yeah, I got over to Manchester last week, actually, to CIPP Live, which was a very payroll-focused event, and got to talk to a lot of people about where AI in payroll is headed and the Frankenstack era that we're in, and how quickly that will end, I think. But also, I think anything AI related in our space, anything that's really impacting or an opportunity for SMEs, I'm really excited about. And we're going to talk about Intuit and Anthropic and where they are at now, because we heard a lot last year about where they're headed, but really starting to come to life. So excited to talk about that one.
Yeah, I mean, I love the term Frankenstack. We've been talking about an app apocalypse recently. So we've got apocalypse and Frankenstack. I'm sure I'll try and come up with some terrible term later on as well. But no, thank you. It's going to be really interesting to take you through I say probably me take you, you take me through App News. So on that note, let's crack on.
Listen, if your clients are still drowning in manual HR and payroll admin, you need to tell them about Employment Hero. It's an AI-powered platform that actually takes action. Automated candidate screening, smart payroll, real-time compliance updates, the works. HR, recruitment, payroll, and benefits all in one place. And here's the bit you'll love. It integrates with your accounting software. So no more chasing down payroll data. Your clients and their team get time back. You get clean data. Everyone wins. Head to employmenthero.co.uk to see why thousands of UK businesses and bureaus have already made the switch.
So we're kicking off this week with some interesting news from Intuit QuickBooks, which used its Get Connected event in London to unveil a wave of updates, just as Making Tax Digital deadline moves closer. What's particularly interesting is how heavily the focus is shifting towards AI embedded directly into the accounting workflow. So they announced new AI tools that effectively act as a second pair of eyes inside the platform, flagging potential errors, highlighting tax obligations, and identifying issues in records before they become a compliance problem. The idea is that instead of accountants and business owners only discovering problems at the year end, the system should proactively surface them throughout the year. Now, alongside that, QuickBooks is also strengthening its bank feed automation, reporting capabilities, and MTD functionality, including the ability to report non-trading income like dividends, interest, and foreign income as well, under the new digital reporting rules. But perhaps one of the most significant announcements in the longer term is that QuickBooks is now operating as a global platform, meaning that UK users will receive product updates and AI features in line with the US rather than months behind, as it has always done historically. Now, taken together, it's a clear signal of where the industry is heading. As MTD approaches, accounting platforms are increasingly positioning AI not just as a feature, but a core layer of compliance, insight, and automation within the profession. So it's interesting to see how that has changed from what's AI and what do we do with it, to now it's fully embedded within the software. What are your thoughts, guys?
Wow, that's finally the UK is getting recognition by
right?
Intuit. It's good. And they release so much AI stuff now, Intuit. Should it be called Intu AI? Maybe that would be a better name for it.
I mean,
doesn't
on
roll off the
paper,
tongue.
that feels like it makes sense, but when you say it out loud, it doesn't quite sound the same.
Don't quit your day job, Ryan.
Yeah, I don't do the branding. I'm definitely not someone that comes up with the names. But no, I think from my end, once again, another, I guess, huge release from Intuit. They did something similar August, September last year, where kind of they announced all of their AI agents, a big raft of them. And it feels like now they're really pushing ahead, especially a big focus on the UK. Are you starting to feel that as well, Eriona? I sometimes feel that you kind of get a bit more of the insights than us.
No, I have to say we have seen a lot more of the American influence every time we go there and meetings and everything. So I think this announcement there wasn't anything that was necessarily majorly new. These are all things that we saw, as you say, in the release with around September time, but it's only become properly available now. So I think it was more just letting everybody know how it's going to work, what they can do with it, and just reiterating that and reinforcing it. But it does feel like we've now become important as well, or just as important as the American market. So yeah, looking forward to seeing what it's going to do. For us, I think it's going to be really interesting, but I reckon there's going to be a slower intake or uptake from accountants. Maybe businesses will play around with it and say, what is this? But there is still that worry from accountants of, do I want to give autonomy or have AI with me every step of the way? I don't know whether this will work, but it's only something, as they use it more and more, they'll build confidence, and hopefully the system will actually become a lot better and provide better results than it will right now. Because I'm sure a lot of people are going to start saying, no, it doesn't work. I've tried it. It gave me all the wrong things, but it needs time to learn, right? Even though Intuit has got a massive data set that they work from, and I'm guessing they're going to be taking that across the board, not just the UK, for kind of looking at industries and how they work and then seeing how that can be implemented. But yeah, I'd say probably we'll see the effects of it in 9 months' time, personally.
It's fascinating. This is a huge move like that. The partnership with Anthropic is incredible to see. It's kind of, think about it in technology adoption curve terms, like when I say stuff like this, because the last big technology adoption curve started with, cloud versus desktop, right? And it was very much the collaboration opportunity between accountants and their clients. And now I don't think there's such a big decision to make for adoption, because I feel like the AI tools in platforms will be embedded in some places, and in some places it'll be a choice to switch it on or not to switch it on. I think that's going to become really interesting. And something you said there, Eriona, I thought was important, is if an accountant and their client have access to the system, but the client can switch on the AI tool first, like that's kind of, I feel like that could cause some kind of challenges, because that could raise questions back to the accountant, from the client, and they might feel exposed. But this is the next big shift in, I guess, the power of the big accounting platforms, like in the capability and the data that sits inside and all of the information that's available at fingertip. And then it's like, okay, well, what are we going to do with it? What does it actually mean?
Do you know what, though? AI, there will be a lot of accountants that are worried about it, as you say, letting the clients just have it at their fingertips, and there will be questions and pushbacks, things that they may or may not understand fully. But this is where the future's going. We need to be ready for it, right? And we need to change the way that we're working with our clients. It's not just, they're not interested in the figure anymore. They want to understand, why is that figure like that? What can we do about it in the future?
Yeah.
And that's what will help bring out these conversations, I think.
Definitely. And Kevin, you mentioned this partnership with Anthropic. What is that? Because that is something I've not really come across from the announcement.
Yeah, this gives them the capability and power to really roll out as many AI agents across the platform as possible. And while that is really exciting, people will try to trying to figure out what AI agents, like what does that mean? And even ourselves at Employment Hero, we're rolling out a recruitment agent at the moment, and that's our best branding that we could give to the technology in that module in the product. But in essence, it folds up into everything AI that we can do on the platform itself. And I guess with Intuit partnering with such a big provider in this space, they're saying we need the support and help and guidance, right? Like to get the best in class AI tools that are available. So I think it's a huge, huge move. What it translate into, I think we're still figuring that out at the moment. Like what can it actually do? And I guess the caution from myself and anybody using AI tools at the moment is it ultimately gives you an incredibly fast way to consolidate and structure and synthesize information. But if the underlying information is flawed or you don't have the right system connected, you're basically could be going faster in the wrong direction, right? Like, so you got to be really careful over that. So again, the great thing about accountants, and I think I can say this because I'm an ex-accountant, is we tend to take a kind of cynical stance in some scenarios, and this could be one of them. But I like what Eriona said, like this is not going away. And actually, it's a very exciting opportunity rather than a painful change.
I prefer the word prudent than cynical, Kevin. I always think
I've lost some of my vernacular over the years. You know?
Yeah. No, I think you're probably right in many ways, right? It's just my preference on the term. And I think you're right. I think Intuit being quite bold backing Anthropic, because I think recently didn't Donald Trump try and get the government to not use Anthropic? And so going against Donald Trump on anything is a dangerous game, especially over in the US. But bold move from Intuit. But specifically, I know you said about the AI agents, Eriona. I know one of the newest announcement was the business tax AI beta, which goes alongside the accounting agent, payments agent, the customer agent, the payroll agent, and the sales tax agent. There's just a few agents that they've got there. But the business tax one, which is focused, I guess, trying to identify and lower tax liabilities for individuals, I think is quite interesting.
I'm going to find this interesting. Well, first of all, it's only accessible right now. It's in beta, but only for the US. So although we said that, we're a global platform.
Where's that parity gone?
Yeah, literally. But that's going to be really interesting once we get our hands on it, because it's supposed to suggest things that may be hidden in the data that either the client or accountants haven't noticed that could be used as a deduction. So it's bringing everything to the surface. But again, that depends on how good the data is, how accurate the data is. And of course, it will learn. It may be good at just highlighting some things that may be wrong, and it will prompt us to say that I need to fix that, clearly, because it's giving me the wrong information. So that's something that will help us to go deeper into it. But yeah, really depends on how good the data is going to be.
Isn't that like such a fascinating piece, though? You can instantly coach it, right? Like this is the cool bit, like that I find of playing with and arguing with LLMs like during the week, and saying like this is wrong, but I'm kind of forgetting, hey, actually I'm the driver here, right? Like I need to actually coach, and basically lay out like the understanding and also try not and be too biased to what I say, because that's some of the power in it, like the objectivity. But I think that's absolutely fascinating. Like if it's serving up transactions from the GL and saying, hey, you need to look at this because of A, B, and C, and you're like, oh, these are fine, it would likely not do it again. That would be my understanding.
What I like about it is they've got something called a deduction maximizer, which is much better terminology than the kind of thing I'd come up as a name for it. But that's, as you say, it's suggesting ways to reduce some of your tax in certain areas. And then they've got, regular proactive reminders, obviously focused on the US at the moment, but making sure that you're staying on top of compliance. And I think those are two great tools. But we've talked a lot about Intuit. Let's see if we can move on. I know we've got Eriona here, but let's talk about some other products that go beyond Intuit. FreeAgent did I call that a kind of annual summary of everything they've been going through. And I really like these things, right, where a product's reflecting on what they've done throughout the year, what they've come through. One of the big things, obviously, that pretty much every one of the main finance platforms have been focusing on over the 25-26 year is getting ready for MTD. So obviously a lot of the developments have been MTD focused. They've got a solution now that handles pretty much any of the submission compliance requirements for MTD. They've got a command center in place. They've got workflow controls that go across all of this. But they've also brought out simplified CIS. They've brought out, I guess, a more consistent bank feed to try and enable that. And that's actually something we've seen a lot of the other platforms is trying to really enhance and stabilize their bank reconciliations and bank feeds. But they do touch on what they're hoping to do over the coming months and years as well. And that's bring a full compliance platform, not only just for the MTD side, but beyond that and going, I guess, beyond MTD for income tax, but also looking at supercharging the system for, I guess, bigger businesses, which has been their general progression over time to try and compete with the likes of Xero, Sage, and the new Intuit named platform. And then, finally, looking at things such as rental extraction. So taking statements, which has always been a pain I've found for many systems, taking them and automatically processing them into the system, adding enhanced compliance checks and client health metrics, which we see on a lot of external systems now, which we might end up talking about throughout the show. But I think overall, it feels like they've done a lot, possibly not as much as Intuit. Intuit feels like they're going to completely redesign the entire of their system, but they've taken the system forward quite a bit. Either of you felt that kind of impact from FreeAgent during the year?
Absolutely. So I actually had a demo very recently this week with their platform, and I have been super surprised at how quickly they've managed to do what they've done. When you compare to Intuit's a massive, like their teams are huge. FreeAgent doesn't have a huge team, but when you see what they've done, I was really impressed for a practice that, would like to have everything in one place. It seemed pretty perfect. It's also really affordable for clients, so there isn't as much pushback trying to sell.
Can be free.
Well. Exactly, can be free. How many people could potentially, if they like the platform, just end up opening bank accounts to make sure it's free, right? That's one tactic to get in it. But I really, really liked what they've done, how literally everything is in one place. It doesn't need to be super complicated, because we're at a point right now where we keep bolting on and adding more and more things to the software to try and come to something that works for us. But this is almost just something that's ready out of the box, get stuck in, really easy to use. Workflows are great. Being able to bulk submit things with MTD as well. They showed me how you could have everything ready for your clients for MTD for income tax. You don't need to go through and submit one by one. You could just bulk do them all and set them for a day before the deadline, for example. These are all things that could save so much time down the line. So I thought it was great.
Yeah, you kind of surmise like the way it should be, right? Like, actually unification of systems. And I've been going on about Frankenstacks for a while now. It's great that we have choices of tools, but like you end up with 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, get excited because they do great things. But then when you actually go to unify them and consolidate, like it kind of swap out the work that you've saved for the work that you now have to do to make sure the data is correct. Ryan, with regard to FreeAgent, like absolutely impressed by their speed is the big thing for me. And I think in a situation that they're in, really trying to grow and take on, let's call it the more established, larger players like Intuit, Xero, Sage, I think speed's going to be a big winner here, because yes, the bigger tech companies have a lot of resource, but sometimes the ship slows down the bigger you get. Like it's hard to actually roll out product improvements because of the dependencies on other product families and the technology. But FreeAgent guys, I think when I see updates, posts, product rollouts, it always seems to be faster or ahead. Does feel different to what Intuit are doing in terms of their latest releases with AI. But I wouldn't bet against FreeAgent catching up very quickly. Let's move on to the next one. My old employer, Xero, have released information showing a slowdown of sales amongst SMEs. So we call it revenue of SMEs across the US. And it's kind of just averaged out at 2.4%, which is below the long-term trend. Now, this might be US data, but I think it's important to consider, I guess, the structure of this, like, and what it means. And if that was the same in the UK, like, what could that mean? And why does this matter for accountants? Because at times like this, when things start to slow down, generally you see a reaction where people look for help and support and they turn to their advisors for guidance. And in that stage, it's rarely about the compliance piece and filing returns and understanding what are deadlines, more about, hey, we're starting to see revenue drop. What are the implications? What can we do? What's the impact on cash flow? And this is where advisors really can show their strength. But also on people's mind could be, hey, there's a cost factor to this. And you can end up with a situation that you don't want to see, where people kind of, I guess, go into their shell a little bit, like, and try and dig their way out of problems instead of working with advisors. What do you see, Ryan, Eriona, like, what do you see when the economy kind of contracts for some of your clients? Like, what is their typical reaction, and what would you like their reaction to be?
I mean, from my end, I think that it really depends what sector they're in and what their commitments are. So some businesses are very good at pivoting up and down and riding the waves. Some can use it as, I guess, especially if there's a pause to some extent, to reinvest, kind of reinvigorate and get things moving. And others really feel the pinch. And I think that does vary. But I guess just a slower speed of growth is a massive concern at this point. And I think realistically, we kind of have to expect that with what's going on in the world at the moment.
One thing that I would be interested to know is the data that they've taken, is that from the data they've got from clients they've got in the US, or have they done a full market review based on information that's readily available? Because if it was just on their data, I'm thinking
it looks like their client in the US,
their client base over there is not huge,
No.
from my understanding. So I wonder whether it's the same type of client that might be signing up initially. Therefore, maybe that particular sector of the market might be experiencing that.
Very possibly. They tend to, from my, I guess, history of working through these reports, they tend to be quite generic across sector. But as you say, this can be a very small market section in the US. They do this across every single jurisdiction. And something they have established, as well as, I guess, the slowdown specifically in the US market, is that across every area, so this is Australia, United Kingdom, United States, New Zealand and Canada, so all the areas they do these reports on, that businesses are getting paid faster, which is positive. And obviously this is mostly small businesses, because these are the ones that use Xero, but it's still getting paid late. So if we look at related to due date, how quickly are people getting paid? The country that's getting paid the quickest is New Zealand, only 4.5 days after due date on average. The worst country is Canada, more than double that, 9.7 days. And then you've got the second worst day is the UK. Woo! We're never the best, are we? But we try. And that's an average of 8 days late. So we've got an improvement, including in the UK, but overall there is it's still a problem. There's still something that Xero have set out their stall to try and improve cash flow. This is something they're always going to highlight. And the fact it's getting better, hopefully, is a testament to all of these tools we're starting to see that make payments easier to make. It's not quite there yet.
That's the thing, right? In business, generally, I think the majority of the time, the reason why people pay late is because they've forgotten. And they've got so many things to do that it slips their mind on that list. But as you say, with the tools we have now, it makes it a lot simpler to be able to do that a lot quicker.
Yeah, and it's also split between whether your customer is an SME themselves, or your customer is a large business who's kind of has probably a little bit more, I guess, controls over like payments and like payment runs, and they tend to be running on 30 or 45 days later than what a SME expects them to pay. Like, so we used to see that quite a bit. There was improvements when it was an SME to SME interaction, but an SME to enterprise, definitely payment days would blow out. And that can have a really big hit like on that cash flow, because it looked like the materiality was bigger. It was bigger invoices. It was bigger payments.
And I think, as you asked or mentioned, Kevin, with revenue contracting and then payments you're getting paid quicker, sometimes that balances out. But the number one, I guess, factor that's going to impact that is costs. And we see that, especially like with your area of expertise, Kevin, on salary increases. So is that something we're experiencing at all?
Yeah, we track employment data monthly. We're up to over, I think, 140,000 employees on the platform now in the UK. So we've been running this report for just over 12 months. And basically what we're looking at is, okay, so geographical, industry, but also anything that's attached to like the ONS data. So we can kind of track it, say, okay, are we in line with their reports, or do we see differences? And we try and reconcile it in the background and obviously figure it out. We're not economists by any stretch. The reality is we are seeing employment grow in the SME space, and like typically clients who use Employment Hero could be from 2 or 3 staff up to over 1,000. So it is quite a spread. But let's say for this data, we're very focused on the 5 to 500 employee category. So we saw a contraction in employment just over a year ago when the budget came out, and there was talk of the NIC changes and increases. And it took it nearly 12 months, like, for it to actually bounce back. But now we're starting to see it like come up again. And the reality is SMEs can't wait to hire, right? Like, they deal with what's in front of them. If that's a economic challenge or government regulatory piece, like, they kind of have to get through it. And they need to continue to hire because there's such a dependency on people in their business and human capital. But the kicker, and not a positive one that we're seeing here, is wages are up 8.8% from on our data. And what we're hearing then when we speak to SMEs is we need people in the door to help us. They're experiencing a cost of living challenge. We're trying to hold on to people and retain them. Therefore, we're finding quite boxed in terms of what we can do. And it is pushing wages up across the business. So very challenging for them right now.
Yeah,
Even with the
definitely.
increase in wages, it's not like it's seen as anything super special by the employees because, as you say, the cost of living, they're stretched that in a few years ago they could have a much better quality of life versus now, even though their salaries have increased, it hasn't made much of a difference.
I think
But
that's psychologically like really important because the employer is thinking, I need to hold on to these people.
yeah,
The employees thinking, I need to pay my bills. There's not a positive sentiment in either kind of party, right? Like, it's like, God, we kind of have to do this, or the employees thinking you should do this to help me.
do you know what's really interesting though? How everyone said, we've got tech, we've got AI, all kinds of things. Now we don't need people. So surely salaries shouldn't be increasing. But I think this is just validating that, yeah, we have tech, but we can do so much more. And we need the people to be able to steer that tech in the right direction, right? To actually show us what we need to do to improve. Therefore, their skills are more required than ever.
Yeah, absolutely. It just shifts. It moves around. And look, even though this kind of, I mentioned it earlier about Frankenstack, there's a lot of SMEs across the country who've adopted a lot of tools and made the right decisions at that point in time to get a new time and attendance software, a new accounting software, or new payroll or HR, very much our wheelhouse. And they kind of get to now and probably reflecting and saying, hey, there's been cost, there's been pricing inflation for nearly all of those tools, but all of those tools and those businesses have to expand their product offering and then start to creep across into others. And they're saying, where should we do this piece of work? Because now we can choose between two systems. So it's becoming quite interesting to see this play out. If someone thinks then they could save, I guess, headcount costs by rolling out something AI related, like you basically, it's a bit of a digital bandage.
Another interesting development in the fintech space comes from Bots for That, which has launched something called the MTD Command Center. It was unveiled at the Finance, Accounting and Bookkeeping show this year. The idea behind it is actually quite powerful. So instead of practices juggling multiple bookkeeping platforms and spreadsheets, if they still have them, and different HMRC portals to track client obligations, the tool actually aims to consolidate everything into one live dashboard that pulls data directly from HMRC. So firms will be able to see their entire client portfolio at a glance. So we're looking at VAT, income tax, self-assessment, and corporation tax, deadlines, penalties, and outstanding filings all in one place. Now, what makes it particularly interesting is the AI layer, again, sitting behind it. Rather than simply helping with submissions, the platform is designed to highlight risks, prioritize urgent actions, and to give firms a clearer operational view of their entire client base before those deadlines become problems. And it's an important shift because MTD is increasing the frequency of reporting, which is a real challenge for many practices, which isn't just filing returns, it's maintaining visibility across hundreds or possibly thousands of client obligations. So tools like this are trying to move the profession away from reactive compliance and spreadsheet tracking and towards something closer to more like real-time portfolio management, but using the power of AI. I think this is super positive, especially with MTD coming as I mentioned, with all those deadlines and firms not really sure how they're going to be able to keep on top of that. But what do you think, Ryan?
Yeah, well, I think we've got another MTD command center, right? So it appears that's the thing to release at the moment. What a surprise as we kind of hit the timing of launching MTD. And I think the advantage of bots for that is it's not inside a central system. It's across, it can cross multiple systems. So there's those practices that want to use multiple different systems, that there's a benefit there. But I'm going to move on from MTD because I want to talk about something else. And one of those is the incredibly fun world of AML. So we've got, so that was sarcasm if no one could tell, we've got an integration between FYI and AMLCC, a business I've not really heard of before, but essentially is an anti-money laundering compliance system created by Richard Sims. And this, I guess, partnership, this integration is all about building together practice management and AML compliance. FYI have done this with other tools out there. They've enhanced and expanded this into the integration with AMLCC. So not a massive shout out. We've got a new MTD command center, but another thing that's going to move that automation layer forward, especially if you are either using FYI or AMLCC.
I think it makes sense, right? To have everything in one place. You've got the client onboarding there, may as well have AML included in that process. Should make it a lot more efficient for accountants, and it's one less, hopefully, depending on the integration, but one less software to move on to throughout that onboarding process. So it'll make it a more positive experience for clients.
I agree. I haven't used those tools, but like it obviously makes sense to me when I think through the structure of it, like bringing that AML capability into that point in the process, like is just where it should be joined up by the sounds of it. So more exciting developments. I'm gonna take you back to MTD though. You don't get away from it, Ryan, that easily. Final one for me: Starling Bank is expanding its business banking capabilities as the UK prepares for the next stages of MTD. Starling is introducing features that allow businesses to manage tax obligations and financial records directly inside the environment, which sounds like it's bringing accounting into the banking platform. Bit of a wider trend that I certainly have seen over the last 10, 15 years. I actually, if I take a step back and I think about it, I thought I would have seen more of it, but I've seen it in pockets in different countries, sometimes in Australia, sometimes in the States, the UK. Ryan knows, obviously, I lived in Southeast Asia for quite a while. I used to see the banks there thinking about how could we acquire a cloud accounting platform because they could see what was happening. But for accountants, this creates a bit of opportunity and challenge. Simpler tools and how they're promoted might be received by SMEs as, hey, this is going to make it really easily, which is positive. But obviously, everybody needs to think about how this all pieces together. If you're using bigger cloud accounting platforms and Starling Bank, but again, the systems could do two things. How does that work together? What was your reaction to this, guys?
From my side, this is the fourth bank, I think, over the last 6 months that has released an MTD system, all powered by other tools. And yeah, I think that it's to be expected. And I think we're seeing a lot of partnerships between banks and software systems, as you say, Kevin, something that was shirked in the past. And I think there was a lot of fear as account systems kind of took that engagement away from banks and became really just a kind of underlying tool that managed transactions rather than that engagement layers. Yeah, I mean, I expect to see more, but I've got something. Let's take this away from banks. I've got something that I think is quite interesting, something we referenced earlier, where we've got the kind of that data review process. We talked a little bit about this with Intuit and the way they're getting into this realm. Well, Xenon Connect, which has been a reporting tool that's been around for a while, has released Systemize, which is aimed to target that kind of tick box reviews, taking things into task management. So how I'd compare this is similar to like a Dex Precision, where you can create a structure, a workflow that enables you to go through kind of a process end, be that a VAT return, or maybe even just like a management account process. So what they've essentially done is they've created some pre-built templates, which at the time of, I guess, I was talking about this, covered VAT returns, management accounts, bookkeeping and bookkeeping review, that have a list of checks that you need to complete normally for doing, say, you take a VAT return review, and then you've got reports and data that's pulled through the Xenon system to superpower that checklist. So if you've got an end of period processing that you need to do within your probably outsourcing department or bookkeeping team, then having something like a Xenon Connect really helps speed that along and makes it better.
I think this is going to be, it's a good feature, but I see that a lot of people would have this in their practice management anyway, or should do if they don't. That's what I would usually recommend. Is what we do. So everyone follows a certain, step-by-step process of what they need. Now, it doesn't pull reports in, so that's a feature that this has that others don't. But yeah, it helps with the productivity and I guess staff training to make sure that one or consistency with work, so it all is at the same level, but also for those that are unsure, they've got something to follow as well.
Yeah, I like the sound of it. I wouldn't say a big bang release that is probably getting people super excited, but very practical and obviously super helpful and most likely for people maybe who do need that structure, and don't have it currently. I think that's the big benefit. I was kind of thinking this is where even I've seen tech companies across a range of different industries and specialities building features, and then I kind of go, could AI do that? If there was an AI tool that you were using, it could build a checklist pretty quickly. So it's going to be really interesting to see how stuff like this is received.
And that brings another Digi-Tools and the Accrual World podcast to a close. Thank you for listening. Hopefully you gained insights and knowledge from our wonderful co-hosts for today, Eriona and Kevin, who have, I guess, helped us navigate what has been quite a huge release from Intuit and some quite, I guess, dramatic fluxes in the economy, as we discussed, with increasing price, changes in cash flow, and quite significant increases in salary costs as well. If you want to make sure you catch all of our future episodes, please do subscribe and also look out for the announcements regarding the launch of our Digital Disruptors Awards in 2026. We hope to catch you on future episodes.